So I've been playing Sonic X Shadow Generations and oh my god. Yeah, man, dude, okay, so Sonic X Shadow Generations, this probably, like, I think now what, the greatest Sonic game ever? Can we make that argument? It's barely been a week since the game came out when this video is coming out, but like, I think we can make that argument, right? I'll quickly talk about the original Sonic generation. Sure, that was already one of my favorite Sonic games of all time. Like, from start to finish, the fan service is awesome, and the level design and whatnot, just fantastic. One of the greatest soundtracks out there you can find. I really like all the extra content with the challenge levels. Like, the story was kind of whatever, but hey, it's a really good game. I've replayed almost every single level a ton, outside of Planet Wisp. It's the one bad part about the game I'm not a big fan of, and the fact that that's the final act is very upsetting, but overall, fantastic game. As far as its inclusion in this sort of remaster is concerned, whatever, man, it's there. There are some changes, but they're so incredibly minor. I don't really care, but I guess we'll talk about it real quick. You got some slight control differences that took a little bit to get used to. The default control scheme is boosting with the R2 button, or the right trigger, which I'm not used to. You can change the controls if you want, but right off the bat, that was different, and my muscle memory was totally thrown for a loop. There's an option to remove the live system, which is great because every time I wanted to speed run any particular level, every time I had to restart because I was screwing up, I would lose a life, and that was annoying, so nice change. You have the drop dash now as an ability that you can equip for classic Sonic, and I think it's there mandatory for modern Sonic. Whatever. I mean, it makes sense. I guess I would rather have it now than not have it, but obviously the game is not built for it, so I don't really see any functional use for it, but it doesn't really change much at the end of the day. There are now 3 hidden Chow hidden in every single level, and that's just kind of cute. There's no garden or anything for them. It's just an additional 3 things to collect on top of the 5 red rings in every single level, and then they just litter the open world, the white space once you free them. Cool. I just want a Chow Garden. But ultimately, the big change here is the rewritten cutscenes coupled with a couple different animations, like they added the Chow to the opening cutscene, and now in that opening cutscene, when before Sonic would sort of palm Amy away as she was obsessing over seeing her idol, I guess. They've normalized her a little bit, and now she's just providing you cupcakes. Like, cool. I like that. I'm fine if we move away from the Amy is a crazy fangirl idea. Like, I'm okay with that. I don't really mind. However, the rewritten dialogue, it's a little strange, for sure. Mostly because the cutscenes have not been reanimated over when it comes to the mouth movements, so nothing syncs up, and that's just kind of strange. In general, I really like Ian Flynn's writing, the sort of acknowledging of more things from Sonic's past, especially in this game, which is all about referencing. I think some people kind of take the on-the-nose references a little bit too severely, like Tails actually saying like, hey, we're in the chemical plant now. Like, okay, cool, I'm fine with that. Like, one of the early cutscenes is Sonic referencing secret rings and colors. I'm fine with there being more references in my Sonic games. It sort of rewards me as a longtime player for just keeping those things in the back of my mind. But it just, you know, most of these dialogue changes don't really do much at the end of the day. Like, now, modern Sonic will respond to his friends when you free them in the white space. It's cool. There's an implication that classic Sonic ate the island, because like Knuckles is like, where is it? And classic Sonic's like, oh, my belly. It's strange. That's a strange thing. But also, I'm making light of all these changes because it does not matter. Sonic Generations never had a good story. It was just a means to let all the fan service stuff happen, and that's fine. One of the only things I wanted was more references to other Sonic games, so the fact that we have that now, even if it's incredibly minor, cool. The story in this game was never good. Ian Flynn was only going to be able to change it and make it super work if they were going to change up the entire story, which would obviously be way out of the budget for this, so like, whatever. Man, the rewritten cutscene's fine. It's just kind of there because they wanted to change the one shadow line in the very final part of the game, and because they've changed the entire voice cast, they may as well have changed every single line in the game. Sure, it does not matter. Everyone's losing their minds. This is Sonic Generations all over again if you want. You got the classic skins in there now with the Sonic Jam skin and the Sonic Adventure skin as like a pre-order bonus and DLC. That's very cute. For me, personally, I'm mostly upset that they erased Cucky from my game. They changed his name in that weird trophy room. It's Cucky Erasure, And I'm not about that. I have put so many hours into Generations before having it available on a brand new console. It's 60 FPS on console now, you know, on PlayStation and Xbox. Cool. The game does run well on Switch. Good to know. But the reason why I'm here, the reason why most you people are here is Shadow Generations. And oh my god. The simplest way to put this is Sega definitely heard all the complaints that so many people had, myself included, regarding Sonic Forces and how lazy that game felt, and they said, okay, not only are we in the process of course correcting so many things, like with the story of Frontiers, fixing so many of the characters, that's great. Now, we're gonna make a brand new boost levels, and we're gonna cook so damn hard, it's gonna produce some of the greatest levels in Sonic franchise history. Shadow Generations, man, this was peak from like start to finish. Like it's amazing. And there are so many things about this that it's just gonna be a lot of fanboyism left, right, and center. But one of the primary things that I'm so about is this does have boost gameplay that Sonic has been about for a long time now, but this does not feel like just a Shadow-themed level pack. And obviously there are modders out there who have been modding in a bunch of levels into Sonic Generations, have all done a great job, but when you're making Shadow playable to this capacity, I want Shadow to play a little bit differently, and damn it, he does. He has the Chaos Control now, which can freeze time, which has so many ridiculously cool uses. Like there's a mandatory use a couple times, like in the first stage, you're destroying a rocket that's shooting out at you. That's really cool. But then there are like these optional paths that require you to be really precise with the timing of the Chaos Control, like in Sunset Heights here. Like that was incredible. Like that attention to detail and you needing to pay attention on when to use this meter, it's so damn cool. And then you're also equipped with a bunch of new Doom abilities, like the Doom Spears, which is like basically giving Shadow a gun without giving him a gun. He can like shoot 5 at the same time by holding the button down. Cool, but this is used for certain enemies that you can't attack immediately. There are certain switches that you need to hit at the right time. You got these little weird goopy alien enemies that will like fly towards you, and you gotta like balance you boosting and hitting springs while also trying to hit them so they don't hit you back. And like, god, it's so cool. Your hands are doing so many things at once. To get a really good run on any of these levels, you gotta focus on so many things, and that's on top of just like the level designs being super well designed. Like in terms of route options and whatnot, like these stages are some of the most vast and expansive boost stages ever. And they have been able to masterfully weave in story segments into the levels without making them feel annoying and forced. Like one of the things, we can go back to Sonic Unleashed, and those boost stages are incredible, but then you have the parts where you're being chased and it's like, okay, it's a little bit boring, you know, I wish I didn't have to deal with this. But now you do things like you start off in the Space Colony arc and then you transition into a little bit of Radical Highway. Those transitions happen multiple times in this game and it's never annoying. And I think that's because the parts of the level that are references to other Sonic levels, like the Space Colony arc, like Sunset Heights, like Rail Canyon, there is already so much of that level to deal with that when you add the Radical Highway portions on top of that, it just makes these levels just even longer. Like these stages are some of the longest in the franchise history too. Like a good speed run will probably take you like 2.5 to 3 minutes, and that's a speed run on a level that your first time through and just learning all the paths and whatnot will take you a lot more than that. And it's wildly impressive how immaculately detailed all these stages are. So to not really go into spoiler details for like the end game here, I want to talk about the levels of the game. We have 5 core levels in this campaign. We have the Space Colony arc, which is just kind of a generic Space Colony arc stage. There have been multiple over the franchise history, but this is primarily based on Sonic Adventure 2. There's Rail Canyon from Sonic Heroes, Kingdom Valley from Sonic 06, Sunset Heights from Sonic Forces, and Chaos Island from Sonic Frontiers. Now, I know the whole thing with Generations is time travel shenanigans. You can experience things from yesterday as well as tomorrow. You know, whatever justification they have for letting me play in Chaos Island and Sunset Heights. You know, I feel like the nitpicky part of me would be like, we gotta have more stuff that Shadow's actually dealt with. Like, you know, that would make sense. But hey, it's been more than a decade since the original Generations. I'm totally fine with them trying to do some really cool things with Forces and Frontiers in this style. So I can only complain so much. I think the time travel stuff allows them to get away with so many things, and I'm fine with their inclusion here 100%. And the typical stage structure here is each area has 2 acts. A primary act that is basically all 3D. They have foregone the whole idea of like, okay, the modern stage is 3D with some 2D elements thrown in there. Like, nah, these levels are basically all 3D. It's very impressive. And then the Act 2s are all 2D. And that's really cool because rather than just doing more of the same with one less dimension to run through, they do so many different things with like the camera angles and different gimmicks in these stages. These are some of the best 2D stages in the entire franchise. And just like obviously 2D stages have shown up in different forms and different main 3D stages, whatever you want to call them. This is some of the best 2D content in any Boost Sonic game by far. These are incredible. Sunset Heights Act 2 is such a fantastic stage because you're exploring parts of the city in a whole new light. There's a different atmosphere going on. The music is super good. Like, I mean, that part makes sense. It's a Sonic game. Of course, the music is going to be really good. But man, they like just go really hard on the 2D elements as well. Would more 3D stages be better? I mean, potentially, but they took the limitation of having 2D stages and actually did something really good with them rather than, okay, now we'll just make a level that feels lesser. You know, the 2-act structure really works well for this game. And all of the primary stages in this game, they're just incredible and so replayable, finding out what options work in terms of the routes and whatnot. Such great stuff, and I love the Doom abilities. They change up things so well, and I think the only one that I initially had an issue with, and I would imagine most people would have an issue with, is the Doom Morph ability, where you turn into like a squid, and then you can slip around to these goopy areas, and then they have these little pustules floating around that you can latch onto, and then either swing from or sort of jettison yourself from. And I don't think the game really explains properly how to make this work. It's like if you hold the button down, you'll swing from it. However, if you let go at the right time, you'll project yourself like through it. And I don't think the game really explains that well. It took me multiple times of replaying like just the opening bits of Chaos Island before I finally got it. So once you get the hang of it, it's good stuff, but yeah, that part is a little bit lame on your first time through, not gonna lie. God, the bosses are so cool too. Like the Generations bosses were always great, like for the Sonic stuff, and it's no different here whatsoever. Just the play control is great. The music selections and the remixes that are used, great stuff. They do stick to characters that Shadow has had a big run-in with, even Mephiles from Sonic 06. Like that's super cool. The fact that people are excited to see Mephiles, a Sonic 06 character, is awesome, but that's the power of Generations, because I'm excited for Sunset Heights. Man, like, I hate Forces with a passion, but that's a great stage. And then the white space, like, man, this deserves so much praise as well, because this is no longer just a means to play the levels. Like, they took the open zone idea from Frontiers, and I think just the Shadow Generations white space is better than any single island in Frontiers. And that comes down to a few different things. There are a bunch, like a ton of collectibles to be found here. There are 96 collection chests that you can unlock with these keys that you get by doing the main stages as well as some of the challenge stages. And then you got 80 rocket ship parts that get you a little something back in the hub world. It's not a great little something. It's a bit of a joke unlock, but I did it and it was fun to collect the things on the way, but I don't know if it's worth completely doing that. Oh, and also there's no way to really track like the rocket parts on the map, and that's insane. Like, it's already very annoying trying to find every single chest in this game because the map doesn't actually show you every single location for multiple different reasons, so that was already a little annoying to try to find. A lot of, you know, combing through every nook and cranny, but the rocket parts, the thing that give you the most worthless unlock, they don't track them on the map. So I spent so long finding these stupid parts. The fact that any game releases in modern day with a bunch of collectibles in a single map and they don't give you like a map or a radar or something drives me insane. Whatever. Ultimately, you really don't need to collect them anyway. They're worthless. But hey, if you want to take a look at Gerald Robotnik's descent into madness in his journal, the collectibles themselves are worthwhile. Just don't worry about the rocket parts. They will just have you descend to madness instead. And then you got these challenges. You got these little podiums that you'll run across, and then something will happen, and you have a time limit now. Like, okay, you got to get from point A to point B, get this clock in this much time, and then boom, a new clock appears, and you got to go to that one in a short amount of time. Okay, collect this many rings in this amount of time. And everything is based on just platforming and ring collecting, the stuff that Sonic games are more about. When you look at Frontiers, a lot of the puzzles in the game, while I did enjoy them, were not very Sonic-y. There's a lot of like trying to make a connecting line from boxes and doing like a few Tetris-themed puzzles, and I enjoyed them, don't get me wrong, but this feels a whole lot more like Sonic, of course. But the fact that there's all this different landmass surrounding the areas, like the level portal is not just that area, like the Kingdom Valley area surrounding it is a bunch of like watery moats, and you got more castle stuff to explore. It's great stuff. And Big the Cat is here. I don't know why, but he's here. And he gets Shadow to smile. It's crazy. And obviously this little bit of exploration is also where you'll find the challenge acts for each of the stages. Very similar structure to the main Sonic generations, and before you get to the boss, you gotta get boss keys by doing challenges associated with each of the game's acts. I did really like these because, once again, you stick to more Sonic-based stuff in these challenge areas. You gotta go through a bunch of dash rings in a short amount of time. You have these stages where there's only one ring, try to get to the end without dying. You got natural speed challenges, of course, with different enemy placements and obstacle placements and whatnot. Really fun stuff. And once you beat the game, there's even some hard mode things that you can do that do, you know, that does add a little bit of additional challenge. It's not anything super crazy hard, but it could be that because I'm like so Sonic pilled, not a whole lot of this game was a challenge to me. Like, the game was pretty straightforward for me, but I don't know. I've been playing Sonic for far too long. This was all like second nature to me, and I was playing it for the first time. And kudos to like the music selection too for the optional music that you can do for these challenge stages and for the main stages. That was one thing you can do in Sonic that I don't think a whole lot of people took advantage of, was being able to replay stages with different music from this entire library. There's a whole bunch of new songs specifically for the Shadow stuff, and you got more songs from Sonic 06, you got more songs from Sonic Heroes. You have basically the entire soundtrack to Shadow the Hedgehog, which is awesome because there's a lot of really good music tracks in that game, so being able to go through these stages with Westopolis or Digital Circuit, that's great. It kind of makes like one of the most baffling omissions from this game more apparent, in that why is there no Shadow the Hedgehog stage in this game? Like, you would think Black Doom plays an integral part of this plot. You would think there'd be some Shadow the Hedgehog stage. I was really praying for, you know, Digital Circuit, but like Sky Troops would have been perfectly fine. Westopolis would have been kind of redundant with Radical Highway in there showing up, you know, but something would have been really cool. So that's a strange omission. There might be DLC, and this video could be dated, you know, with that talk, because there's still the movie DLC with Keanu Reeves Shadow, which is still a mind-boggling thing that exists, but that's coming, so who knows how much stuff is going to be coming out in the future. But as it stands, like, very weird omission. They should have put Infinite in this game too, man. Like, if you got Mephiles as a boss, Infinite, his whole thing is he was pissed at Shadow. Like, that would have made sense to me, but I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll find out in the future. And dude, I haven't really touched on the story yet, because, man, that's really good too. Just by virtue of having time-space being all warped, you know, in Sonic Generations, it allows the writers who know what they're doing now to really do some cool things with Shadow, like have Shadow interact with Maria and Gerald Robotnik again. Oh my god. Like, the actual overarching plot, it's kind of whatever if you know anything about Shadow as a character and how Black Doom, you know, how his role is important to Shadow's legacy. You can see where the story's going. Black Doom wants to take him over, and you gotta resist him, sure, but it's like the moment-to-moment bits, and especially the bits with Shadow and Maria that are so gratifying, and the ending is so satisfying. And you know, I really don't want to say anything specific, of course, but they nailed it. They nailed it all so hard that the fact that the only thing I can really knock for Shadow Generations as a whole is there's no proper Shadow the Hedgehog 2005 content here. That could be fixed with DLC, I don't know, but this is one of the greatest Sonic games of all time. Shadow Generations, in its own little bubble, is a remarkable Sonic game, and I just am so amazed that we're at this point where not only do I love it as a hardcore Sonic fan, but it seems like everybody's loving it too. Like, that's That's a wild thing to see. And if you look at something like Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, which was a very similar release strategy, if people are going to be able to say that Bowser's Fury is its own standalone thing, you can rank that along with any other individual Mario game, I say we can do the same thing with Sonic and Shadow Generations here. Shadow Generations in its own bubble is well worth the price of admission, especially for hardcore Sonic fans, and the inclusion of Sonic Generations is just a bonus. Once again, if you're someone who played Sonic Generations a ton, like I have, either on console or on PC, especially with the mod support that will likely still go very strong, we'll see how that works in the next, 5-10 years, then whatever, that's just like a little side piece here for the primary bulk of this game, which is Shadow Generations. So damn good. Sega knows it too. They're posting good stuff on their Twitter about this, so it's a good time to be a Sonic fan. It's a very good time to be a Sonic fan. Shadow Generations is fantastic. I can't wait for the movie DLC. Very hopeful for the future of whatever else comes next. And if Sega is not going to give me Shadow the Hedgehog 2005 levels in this game, then damn it, the modding community will have my back, and I hope you look forward to a Shadow Generations modding video on the main channel sometime the next decade or so. I don't know. And dude, there's a Terrio skin? Dude, man, all we need now is them to acknowledge that we're dealing with cucky erasure and everything will be right with the world.